Well, this was unexpected. We were anticipating a trial, and Jason Dalton just pled guilty to 6 counts of murder, 2 counts of assault with attempted to murder, and 8 felony firearm charges. He faces life in prison without the possibility of parole. He will be sentenced on February 5th at 10 a.m. This means that there is no trial. Interestingly enough, he said to the judge he wanted this for quite a while, and it was indicated by his lawyer that apparently Dalton doesn't want to put his family and the victims' families through a trial. Pretty incredible, and as soon as we have an update more in the Jason Dalton saga, we'll make sure to let you know. But right now we want to switch gears and focus back on the exciting events from earlier today with Kevin Spacey's arraignment. We covered that here on Law and Crime, and he was told of the charge, the indecent assault and battery. Interestingly enough, he did not make a plea, either guilty or not guilty, but there will be a further conference, a preliminary hearing on March 4th. Let's break down what we saw today and what we can anticipate. Joining me in my panel, of course, we have Dan Shore, but also joining us is the managing editor of Mediaite, Aidan McLaughlin. Aidan, I want to start with you. Great to see you. What was your reaction to seeing this today? And I got to say, with the Golden Globes last night and seeing this today, pretty incredible to see that dichotomy.
Yeah, it was pretty striking. And I think to see Kevin Spacey, who just sort of last year or 2 years ago would have been feted at the Golden Globes, walk into a courtroom in Nantucket for an arraignment was pretty staggering. I think it's also worth noting that there was a complete media circus outside of the courtroom. I think it's rare to see that many reporters outside of that court in Nantucket.
You know, we were talking about with Dan that one of the issues that he didn't want to make this court appearance. And he said for one of the reasons, look, there's going to be a big media circus, and this is actually a video of him walking out of the courtroom earlier. He had to travel here. The judge didn't care about this because he's such a high-profile individual. I'm curious, what has the reaction been for people who were watching this? What is the media saying right now about it?
Well, so I think it's important to note that while he asked to not make the public appearance, and obviously the judge denied that, he hasn't been necessarily laying low. He released a video over the holidays it seems like some sort of attempt at least to start a comeback, where he played the character of Frank Underwood and from House of Cards and asked viewers to not judge him before they have the full facts. So it's not, you know, he's been at least trying to make some sort of a comeback. That video did not go over well. I think most of the headlines described it as bizarre, and it was. I don't think it's something. I don't know what he was thinking with it, who advised him to release a video like that. It may have been something that could have worked for an actor of his stature 10 years ago, but I think in today's climate, people are far less tolerant of those sorts of attempts at comeback.
Do you think it was an attempt to make a comeback, which is utterly ridiculous because the producers of House of Cards, the creators, the executives at Netflix said they will never work with him ever again. This was even despite him a formal criminal charge. Was it more for his fan base? Was it more, or was it more for the idea, hey, listen, in this courtroom, I'm not going to have a chance to say what I want to say? I mean, we saw him in his arraignment. He can't say, there's certain things he could say, certain things he can't say. Was this his opportunity to weirdly address these allegations?
Well, I think it was strange because obviously he's not going to be coming back as Frank Underwood, despite what his strange plea in the video. You know, the producers have said the last season was the final season. He was killed off from the show. So at best, I think it's probably a sort of ham-fisted attempt at rehabbing his career. I think he was trying to show off his acting chops in the video, and hopefully thinking that, you know, if he puts his, you know, one more piece of his acting out there, it can at least start a path to people accepting that he's not laying low anymore and that he's returning to the spotlight.
And look, you got the conversation going. Dan, back to you. Why didn't he make a plea today?
That's probably based on a discussion behind the scenes. Maybe the defense lawyer and the prosecutor agreed to just move that to the next date. It's mostly a formality anyway, because he's not, as we talked about before, he's not going to plead guilty at an arraignment. It's going to move on. So the defense lawyer seems like he's trying to take a more friendly approach towards the prosecution. Sometimes you see them come in, they're screaming, they're yelling, they're demanding things. This lawyer did not take that tact. He was strong for his client, but he was also agreeing to that compromise about what's going to be preserved. So I think this is part of the pathway towards getting evidence, evaluating the case, and then maybe doing a plea bargain.
And, you know, Aidan, there is a lot of time between now and March 4th in that preliminary hearing. We talked about it from a legal point of view. You think we're going to see any more videos? Do you think we're going to have any more statements from Kevin Spacey or his camp?
Well, I think given the reaction that he got to the last one, I'd be surprised if he followed it up. But, you know, he's holed up in this mansion in Baltimore, this large townhouse that apparently belongs to his manager. And he makes a few appearances to paparazzi. He emerged a couple weeks ago wearing a hat that said retired in 2017 and delivered pizza to them. So I think we'll probably see a few more appearances like that. He's not just going to stay holed up in the townhouse anymore, but I'd be surprised if he went for the video again. That was ambitious.
Look, we're trying to read, as Dan said, the tea leaves. We're watching his appearance today. There appeared to be a smirk almost in the courtroom. We talked about it with the video, wearing the retired hat. Does he not appreciate what's happening right now?
I think it's also a pattern that you see with a lot of these men that have sort of sexual misconduct allegations against them, especially ones that have had storied careers like Kevin Spacey. There seems to be a sort of disconnect between their assumptions of how far they've fallen and whether or not they can make a comeback, and he seems to be vaguely delusional about that.
Well, he might not be the only one, because there's a lot of people who are caught in the crosshairs with this. Aidan, thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate your insight. And Dan, stay with us, because we have a lot more to cover. We'll take a quick break here on Law and Crime. Exciting day, a lot to cover. We'll be right back.